time. It's time for the Billy Flynn Experience.
Thank you so much for joining me today for another fabulous moment with the Billy Flynn Experience. I am Billy Flynn. Thank you so much for joining me. It's a wonderful Friday afternoon here in Germany. Thank you once again for tuning in and listening. We're going to jump right into the subject today. Current events. I don't know, I guess the current event for the last week or so, maybe about a week and a half. But of course, once again, thank you so much for joining and tuning in. And, I like Lizzo. No, I really do. I like Lizzo. She's I don't know, is she a Grammy Award winning artist? Let me see. But if you don't know who Lizzo is, she's an American superstar, entertainer, musician, songwriter, very, very talented woman. I like her. I like her music. I like her style. But over the past week or so, she was in the news, in the Congress library in Washington, D.C. Interestingly enough, in Washington, D.C. They give her a crystal flute to play that was owned by the fourth president of the United States, James Madison Jr. And I found it kind of interesting because of the fact that she was playing this flute, this 200-year-old crystal flute that was made by a French watchmaker and was gifted to James Madison once he became president. And my thing was that I found humor in it because I was saying, like, why would she even put her lips on a 200 flute that's possibly has his spit, his DNA, and she put her lips on that same flute. Again, I found the humor in it. But what was most astounding is during the brief moment where she started playing the flute on stage. And of course, it's all over social media. It's all on the news. And they made a big thing about it, a big story about it. But it's what she said after she played this flute that I found very interesting, and I needed to, I was like, okay, who in the hell is this James Madison person? But I want you to listen to, the outtake of the what she was doing on stage.
I am the first person to ever play it, so y'all are about to hear what it sounds like for the first time. It's crystal. It's like playing out of a wine. Be patient.
okay, as you as you hear, she was saying how gleefully she was saying how history is so cool, guys. History is so cool. I'm not even going to talk about, she twerking on stage or what she had on. That's irrelevant because that's her shtick. That's what Lizzo do. And she's talented. And she's in the public's eye, in the public's mind because of her, not only because of her talent as a musician, but because also the crazy antics that she pulled. But it's funny, it's entertaining. It's a part of the show. I get it. But the thing what she was saying was that this is history. And history is so freaking cool. Now, that's when I stopped and I was thinking, okay, wait a minute. History? Do she even know the history of James Madison Jr.? I mean, really, I was thinking, and I was like, okay, wait a damn minute. And I was like, okay, let me figure something out. So I started Googling because I never heard of James Madison. I don't, it's not my thing about the American presidents or old American presidents, I would say. But this what it was saying. Okay, well, we know that James Madison Jr. is the 4th U.S. president. Okay, and it's supposed to be the father of the Constitution, blah, 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 blah. And also the Bill of Rights. United States Bill of Rights. Okay, that's surface. But then when I started digging deep and it was, a lot of other things came up. And I'm thinking to myself, did Lizzo do her history? Or did she do any reading? Or maybe she don't give a shit. Maybe she doesn't care. Okay, that's fine, But the fact that James Madison Jr., his father, James Madison Sr., owned slaves. They had a plantation in Virginia where they owned slaves. After his father died, he inherited his father's plantation. So he kept the slaves. Even after he left and went to Washington, D.C., became president, he took some slaves with him. Now, the thing is, the most compelling part of this story is, during that time, there were a lot of people who owned slaves, a lot of plantation owners who owned slaves. But what they also used to do, they used to sell or rent their slaves out. And that's what James Madison Jr. did. Once he became president, he moved to Washington, D.C. Of course, he took some of the slaves with him and put them to work in the White House. But he left the instructions to his wife. What was his wife? Dolly Madison. Dolly Madison. Wasn't that a dessert or a cupcake or something? Dolly Madison, his wife, he left instructions to his wife to not sell any slaves. Keep the slaves there. Or if there is a buyer or someone wants to buy any, she would have to have consent by him to sell. So he instructed to her to not sell any of the slaves. Okay, so the thing is that he owned slaves during this time. And I was reading it. Let me see. It says, it says right here. It says, now listen to this. It says the Madison brought a number of enslaved people with them from Montpelier. Montpelier. I guess that's the way it's pronounced. But anyways, that was the name of the plantation. And it said he hired out enslaved laborers for other slave owners in D.C., paying wages directly to the slave owners rather than to the people actually doing the work. In 1801, Madison entered into an agreement with Benjamin Orr that Plato the slave of let me see, the Plato the slave of the said Orr is to serve the said Madison for 5 years, and that during that time, Plato was to be under the direction of every aspect of the said Madisons. Okay, I guess this is a contract, and this is what they were doing. They were hiring out slaves, or he was hiring out his slaves, and again, from what the slaves were doing, the product that they were generating, instead of paying the slaves, he would just pay directly to James Madison. Okay, again, I'm thinking to myself, did Lizzo, or did she even care to even do any type of reading or research before she stepped on stage in front of everybody to play this flute that was owned by a slave owner? Shit, you might as well say slave trader, because, like, again, he was renting out his slaves as if they were cattle. But that's what he was doing during that time. And it's almost like, if you, I don't know, what the way I'm thinking it would be, this is on the same level if it's of a Jewish person would go on stage and try on a pair of gloves owned by Hitler, and then boasting about it and saying, "Isn't history wonderful?" It's comical, it's funny, but then again, it's not funny. It's kind of sad. It's very, very, very sad. But again, I get it. Maybe she didn't care. Maybe she didn't want. But I just found it very, very interesting to actually see it. Once I saw the video, I was like, okay. Because I never paid that much attention. It's been all over the social media and on the news. And of course, like I said, I didn't really pay attention until I saw the video. And then once the video at the end, when she was saying, isn't history awesome? Isn't history great? And the way she's saying it is like so full of pride. I'm like, well, wait a minute. She's, something didn't sit right. Something just didn't sit right. So I decided to do the research, and I don't know, it's mind blowing. But these are the entertainers that we like, or that we look up to. Some of us look up to them. But anyways, again, thank you so much for joining me today. It's a Friday. Wonderful day, nice and sunny weather. Hope everyone's doing well, staying safe from the weather that is taking place all over the world. I know in Florida there's a hurricane. I'm hoping and wishing everyone is staying safe. Thank you so much for joining. We should talk again soon. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. God bless.